We are live. Are you ready, babe?
I am ready.
So, guys.
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 So, guys.
What's up, guys? This is another episode of Theoretically Speaking podcast, and I am joined today by my lovely wife, Emily.
Hello.
Emily Sepulveda.
Sepulveda.
And a lot of people have been asking us, or a lot of people have asked in the past, or not only asked, but we see like a lot of people in having troubles in their relationship and stuff. And so I guess the topic of today's podcast, guys, is we wanted to share with you the things that we've gone through and what we've learned in our going on 9 years of marriage, babe?
9 years of marriage.
When is the anniversary of our first hug?
Our first hug. I will never forget. I don't know. No, but we first got together in August.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, we're not
Dude,
that couple.
If
What?
you're not gonna wear your headphones, I'm not gonna wear mine. Sounds good.
Sounds good, right? Okay, so starting off with the joke. Why are chickens so funny?
I don't know why.
Because I'm just kidding. You can edit that out.
All right, babe. So, I guess we'll start with, I was looking up the 5 top reasons, but I don't know if we'll discuss 5, right? Because we don't want to go that long. But let's say the top 3 reasons for divorce, and they happen to be communication. They're in my phone, so I forgot them. Communication, financial, I think was 3, and then number 5 was substance abuse. I think number 2 is misunderstanding, but that would go under communication. Look it up, Google, top 5 reasons for divorce.
Okay, I'll be right back. Give me 1 second.
I always feel like my posture's bad no
Me
matter
too.
what.
I feel like I look like a turtle. Google. You know, the turtle in like that race. Okay, what am I looking for?
Top 5 reasons for divorce.
Top 5 reasons for divorce. Let's see. Financial disagreement, weight gain, lack of intimacy, lack of equality, lack of preparation, poor communication, and addiction.
All right.
Poor communication for sure.
Yeah, like it's kind of hard to jump into this conversation because like we're our starting point. I know that we've had conversations about this in the past, and it flows just really well. But I guess starting at communication. Yeah. What do you think? Where do you want to start? You start off.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of reasons why couples get divorced because of poor communication. And it's poor communication plus lack of understanding or comprehension.
Well, let's kind of take some. Maybe I think it'd be good to take some facts and statistics into consideration, right? Because the divorce rate right now is what, 50%. So 1 out of every 2 couples divorced. But it wasn't like that always. Like it wasn't like that in their older days. Like my grandparents are still together. My parents weren't. You know what? The whole rock and roll era, maybe when it started going down south. But you think there's a correlation there? Like, why isn't our grandparents ever got divorced? Like, what's the difference there? Like, I'm sure they were young. I'm sure they didn't read any marriage books. You know?
I feel like back then, because it wasn't accepted to get divorced. That wasn't okay. So they had no choice but to stay together, no matter what.
So that's
and learn to how to communicate and learn each other's love language and learn each other's and to comprehend what the other person is trying to get to them.
So that's a huge pusher. The culture, it's more culturally accepted.
Right.
Back then, for sure they didn't have any social media or internet like that. Like I just heard a recent study, and they said that guys who are on Instagram are more likely to like break up in their relationship or be unfaithful in their relationship.
Oh, for sure.
And so what this doctor or psychologist was stating was it's kind of like I guess you see so many more options, but and your brain is telling you that there's so many more options out there, so that's a pusher.
No, and there's another thing with Instagram. Like if you post a story, what these spam pages do is they go to your page, because I've seen it on mine, and it'll be like girls that have pornography. You like
going.
the headphones? They keep you safe.
This is my safe space.
Okay. Like if you post a story, there's how people, it says whatever viewed your story. There's sometimes these spam pages that have these girls that are like pornographic girls, and it'll say like they put on their little name or whatever, like really disgusting things, and like if you click it and you go to their page, it has very like pornographic pictures basically on their page. So like that already, like if you go and you're looking at people who viewed your story and you see someone new who you've never
Pick
seen,
the mic up.
who you've never seen, then you're gonna go to that page and then be enticed to want to see porn if you're already like trying to steer away from porn.
Right. Yeah. So it's hard to talk about any one thing that's causing people to break up, but for sure that's a factor.
Okay.
And maybe we should just establish all the factors. So culture's one, accessibility, or your brain's perceived accessibility to multiple other options. So in the point of a guy, the porn, the pictures of all the girls that make you think like, oh man, dude, this girl that I'm with is so like subpar, or like not meeting my needs and stuff, and it just starts like enhancing what your brain thinks you need. Other girls and stuff, other options. And then not to mention all the other stuff that just comes naturally with the relationship, like we said, communication, misunderstanding, ego, pride that goes into a relationship and stuff like that.
Yeah, pride is a big one.
And all that stuff is a figuring out process, but you're not gonna want to figure it out if you don't obviously want to figure it out. And the way that you're gonna want to figure it out is you have to feel incentivized to figure it out with your significant other. And the incentive, even that's maybe like a very shallow word, like, oh, I'm incentivized to figure it out with my person. But what I mean is that basically, if you don't love your partner, if you don't want to be with your partner, then you're not gonna try to work those things out. And if you're looking at porn and all these other girls, then you're not gonna want to figure it out because your brain.
Or you start to have expectations for them to do those things.
Maybe not. I don't know.
No, for sure. There's expectancy if you're watching porn.
Yeah. So that's one. But in the case of us, like, I think there was some main things with you and some main things with me, and I think they're the kind of I feel like they're more important. They're more priority issues in a relationship, and one of them is definitely communication and understanding. And those things are closely associated, but they're not necessarily the same, because we could be really trying hard to communicate, and I could be vocalizing with you what's bothering me, and you could be vocalizing with me what's bothering you, and we can still not be understanding each other. So they're not necessarily the same, and I think those have been like the biggest things in our relationship that has helped us grow. And even to this day, we probably don't fully understand each other. Like, I don't know. So yeah, do you want to talk about, I guess, in the beginning, some things that you think that I didn't understand, or that you maybe, because you said I've grown a lot since we first met. What do you think?
Yeah, there's been a lot of growth. A lot of growth. I guess like you also understanding love language. like my love language, the way I communicate, the way you can like how some people say the little things. And now you understand, like before you wouldn't help with the dishes, and I had a whole list of things to do. You know, getting them breakfast in the morning, kids, getting them ready, school, laundry. And now I feel like you do all those things. Like you help me with laundry, you do the dishes, you do, you know, all the little things that help me with my daily task and make my life easier. Cause having the kids, and you know how it is, how stressful it is with them fighting, arguing back and forth, not getting the right pink cup or Juju the green cup, like those stressful little moments.
Right. And I think that's one of the biggest things. Like when I've heard friends who've expressed their frustrations in their relationship with their significant other, so in my case, it's usually a guy about a girl. We usually have a lot of the same issues, and one of them is that's probably one of the biggest things. And I've heard that even like at marriage conferences and stuff. It's like, don't keep a tally or don't keep a tab of what your partner isn't and isn't not doing. And that's why they say like a marriage isn't 50-50, it's 100-100. That's where that cliche comes from, I think, that common phrase, because in our heads, especially in the beginning, you're like, oh man, well, she's not doing this, that's why I'm not going to do that. I hear that all the time. Well, she didn't do this, that's why I didn't do that. He didn't do this, that's why I didn't do that.
Yep.
Until he does this, that's when I'll do that. And that's kind of like just that approach towards a relationship is, what's the common phrase that they use for that? It's like I don't know, a ticking time bomb, or just a problem waiting to happen or whatever.
Yeah.
But
literally.
it's not the best way.
It's not. There are days where Trae was absolutely wrong in some of the things that he did. And I would be the first one to say sorry, even though I knew 100%, like, I wasn't wrong in this argument or this disagreement. But I knew I wanted the relationship, and it was both of us against the problem, not me against you. And when I started to view things like that, that's when everything started to change as well. And then I saw, like, as soon as you realized, like, hey, I know I was wrong in this, and she was the one who apologized for it, like, your walls came down. And you knew it wasn't, like, me against you. And you knew I wasn't, like, out to get you. And it gives, I feel like, the men more opportunity to state, like, how they feel. Because it's very hard for guys to say how they feel.
That's true. Especially if we feel like we're not being misunderstood. I'm sure it's probably the same for a girl.
If you're not being, you mean understood.
Yeah, because it's like, why am I even going to talk if you're not going to listen?
Right.
Why am I going to talk if you're not going to try to understand me? Or why am I going to talk if you're just going to spout back, oh, well, it's because you. Like, that's like the worst way that you could start a conversation. And so there may be some things that are like bottled up inside of you, and you're not going to even begin to open up about them because you're just going to be met with, you know, a counterattack.
Right.
If you, you know. But, so just so we can get a little bit more practical and transparent, what are...
Did you hear that?
No.
Oh, okay.
What was it?
I burped.
Oh. What were maybe one or a couple of things, the biggest things that you think were like wrong with me? Or what did you not like about me?
Are you going to say what you didn't like about me?
Yeah.
No. I don't want to say it now.
Why not?
Because I don't want to know.
It's just a perceived. You perceive me to be some way, and I perceive you to be some way. You may have very good reasons for that, and a lot of girls may identify with why you felt or did the things that you did, you know what I mean? But from my perspective...
Okay, so what was the question?
Well, what were the biggest things I was doing wrong? Or what did you not like about me?
That you didn't understand me being an at-home mom. A stay-at-home mom. You thought it was just all you do is stay home all day and you don't do nothing. And a lot of girls feel that way. Because now you're in a place where you see the amount of work that goes into being a stay-at-home mom. Now, 9 years in. Okay, we'll say like 3 years ago you started. 2. But that was one of the biggest problems for me.
Yeah, I probably still don't fully understand it because I've never done it. Like
right,
the
to
roles
the
never
fully,
been reversed.
right, fully 100% to the. But I feel like you do understand it to an extent because now you do things in order to help me to take the load off of all the stuff that I have.
Yeah, but I don't do them because I'm starting to understand. I'm doing it because I've accepted. I've accepted that the situation's not gonna get better, and me just, I don't understand, and trying to push and push
Right.
and push and talk and talk and talk about it until I understand. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be about you understanding. Again, it might never come to the point where I understand fully.
Right.
Because in my mind, and I think everybody probably does this, like, oh well, if I was doing it, I'd do it like this. So in my mind, if the role was reversed, I would knock out all the chores, all the dishes, and then I'd start on some entrepreneurial endeavor I have to try to make more money so that I can then hire a maid to do all the chores and stuff, and that minimizes how much chores I have. Like that's how I would do it strategically in my mind if I had to do
Right,
it.
in your mind.
In my mind.
Right.
And that may or
But
may not be
you've
as easy
never
as I'm
done
thinking
it and had it
Hmm?
100%. So you could not.
I think I can.
If you think you can.
I've done every.
You
I've done. Hold on.
can, No,
Hey.
no. We go. You have when the kids and you.
We should have water guns so when we piss
Yeah.
each other off, we just squirt each other.
No, you have had the kids for a couple of hours, and I will come home and you are pissed at the world. You're mad at everyone because it
I
was
am.
so stressful for you and this and that. And I'm the complete opposite when I have the kids.
But frustration doesn't mean I'm failing at the task. I mean, men are just naturally more.
Yes, it does.
We're more like we're more like that. So like, and I think kids need both the mom and the dad. But let's just say, hypothetically speaking, if I was the only one in the household and I was in control of all those tasks, I would be more like a slave master type of slave master type of role. As bad as a word that sounds, I don't know how else to say it. I guess I'd be more stricter, and I would impose my will more harshly upon them to get these things done. That way I'm not frustrated because, I mean, let's be honest, kids probably generally in America, they're kind of spoiled, right? In the sense that we have washers and dryers and we have TVs and we have all this stuff, and so, you know, and then, you know, if you have two parents or if you're economically a little bit more well off, you know, we don't require our kids to do a lot of chores and to do a lot of tasks, as opposed to kids that are in maybe second or third world countries where they're required to just, you know, be helping out a lot in the home, you know, whether it's cleaning up or selling bubble gums on the streets of Mexico like we've encountered. Kids in poorer situations, I think, have to help out and contribute more to the home, and that's just it's understood by them. And kids in our right who are maybe a little bit, for lack of a better word, spoiled, they don't understand that. So my point is that just because I was mad doesn't mean that I can't successfully do the task. I was mad, and I think I was mad is because I did it for such a short amount of time that my kids weren't accustomed to me taking on that role. So when it happened, there was frustration. But I think if that happened over a week, 2 week, a month's time, they would already start to understand, look, man, if we've already been going through this routine, these are dad's expectations, right? And to a degree, they're gonna get better at meeting those expectations. My frustration is gonna go down, and we're gonna build a routine because, I mean, it's proven. Humans are creatures of routine.
It's easy to say it
But,
when you've done it once.
right.
Very
But anyways, so your point was, I didn't understand you. And that was an area of frustration because, well, I've like gotten mad at you sometimes, and you were like on the brink of leaving me. I'm just kidding. You did leave me for one night,
Oh yeah.
like one or two occasions.
No, on one occasion.
One occasion,
One occasion.
which, yeah, I got really angry. I roared at you.
You roared. Yeah, and you just did stuff that wasn't
Did you
necessary.
think I was gonna bite you?
No, because I would have bit you first. I'm not a girl that doesn't back down.
Yeah.
So no.
So what were you gonna say?
That you handle things in a way that it didn't need to be handled
Right.
that way. And you could have let your anger and frustration, see, you acted out of frustration instead of like, okay, what is it that I can do here in order to help, to make the situation better?
But
And
sometimes,
you emotionally
the person who's in that
responded.
situation, like for me, I don't. Okay, unless you're like prideful and egotistical, and you're like, no, she's not doing this, so I'm not going to do that. Unless you're that type of person, then yeah.
You were.
But I don't think I was. I thought I was helping.
No, you help now. Back then, absolutely not a lift a finger to anything.
I would never wash dishes, nothing.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I don't know.
No, I'm telling you,
Guess not.
you wouldn't. See, you don't even know. You can't even remember because you
Now
didn't
look,
do
and
it.
this was maybe the change right here, because this is maybe what changed, guys. So in reference to that particular story, when that happened, I remember kind of having an internal conversation within my head with me, myself, I, and the Lord. So there was 4 of us
And
there.
my friend.
There was 4 of us there, guys. There was me, myself, I, and the Lord. And that's probably, the Lord is probably the most, he is the most important person at that conversation and at that table, guys. So if you guys don't have a relationship with God through his son, Jesus Christ, and I encourage y'all, start to cultivate one. I know, right? How does that sound? It's not coming through on my... Oh, you should put your headphones on.
It's fine.
Yeah, so anyways, guys, so I'm having this conversation with me, myself, I, and the Lord. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, man, like, what should I do? Like, is it always going to be like this? Is our relationship always going to be like this? Is she never going to meet my expectations? Now, I'm not saying my expectations are right. I'm not saying my standards are right. I'm flawed and like every other human being, and what I think is probably dumb and stupid many times. But either way, within my own mind, guys, that's what's going on. So in my own little world of my own mind, I have these expectations that, dumb as they may be, that's what they are. And so I'm thinking, man, is she ever going to do this, that? And I'm like, man, maybe I should leave her. Is it gonna get to that? It's just a thought, right? I'm not saying right. It just like pops in. I'm sure it pops into everybody relationship mind.
He
right?
would never, ever leave me.
So, and then I'm like, again, I'm referring to the Lord. Lord, what do you think about this? I'm looking for things that he said in the Bible that refer to divorce and all that stuff, breaking up and stuff. And the only thing that I could think of is well, it says that God hates divorce, and it also says that Jesus told his disciples that perhaps the only reasonable reason to divorce or leave your partner is adultery, right? Adultery within the relationship. And so I'm like, well, she's not doing that. So then I'm kind of
Trying to find.
I'm consulting with the Lord, and I'm like, all right, God, so like, what do I do? Am I going to be like, struggling like this forever in our misunderstanding and miscommunications within this relationship? And like, is this how it's going to be? And he's like, if I can't leave her, and he's kind of like, what I felt in my heart was like, yeah, like, I mean, if you got to, in your mind, suffer for the rest of your relationship because of that, well then, so be it. Right? And like, thinking about who is having this conversation, who's telling me this, when you know that it's God, the one who came down and became a man and suffered his entire life and then died on the cross for me, that changes the perspective, right? Because it's just not God sitting on a gold chair in his high and comfortable heavenly clouds just telling you these things. It's somebody who suffered his whole life also and surrendered and sacrificed his whole life, offered for me and for us. So that kind of changed the perspective, and so I kind of embraced it coming from him. And I was like, okay, so what do I do about these tasks? And he's like, well, just do them. Pick up the slack. Like, if you got to do everything, then pick up the slack. And so that was kind of like, that became like my perspective. I kind of stopped, like, because before then I was kind of like keeping a tally, like, man, she's not doing this, not doing that. As much as I didn't want to keep the tally, there was the tally. And when I let go of the tally, A lot more peace came from that, and I tried to like pick up the slack. But obviously, I've never done 100% of anything, right?
Well, and for me, it was the complete opposite. I came already thinking that. Like you were always going to, not always, but like fill my needs, like not meet my expectations. And it was going to be work throughout the whole relationship until we got to where we are now. And I guess that's why I had more understanding and patience. Rather with you didn't have that revelation until later in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had that before we said yes to getting married.
But so going through that season, you said that you had like postpartum depression, right?
Oh yeah.
So you admit that?
Oh, for sure.
And do you think that was contributing to? Do you think you were like lazy sometimes, or what I would perceive to be lazy? Or do you think like you just didn't have the energy and the enthusiasm to do certain tasks, or what?
All the above.
All of the above.
All the above.
So then
like
you
already
can,
coming from.
So then you can understand my frustration.
Yes, I can. To an extent.
So then if you were
but like
to
you've
counsel
never
me,
felt like you've never gone through depression.
right? I haven't.
You've never, not even as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
No. Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. See.
Because I don't know how to gauge depression from a child mind.
Oh,
And
see,
I don't remember, but my dad told me that he found me trying to like hang myself one time.
Mm-hmm.
I was probably sad when I didn't have my mom, but I don't even know where we're going there. But anyways, I don't know if I could understand it now. I don't remember.
Yeah, well, like growing up, I felt like I always had it, and I always had a therapist, always had, or a counselor or whatever. So I feel like I never was able to get out of it. So I didn't know how, after I had a child going through what I went through in high school, and then like thinking you get into a relationship, everything's gonna change and everything's gonna be better, and really it's not. You still haven't dealt with like the true trauma.
Close to the mic. Yeah, like.
yeah. Yeah. The true trauma of like the root cause of the depression as a kid. That's what I said.
No, I know, but it's funny because we always say that, right? We're always like the root.
Yeah, well, it's true, the root trauma of what I've gone through as a kid. So it was very hard for me to like gauge or even notice I was in the depression. And
so this is another, let me just kind of highlight this important point that you're making, because I think a lot of us, we don't understand the significance of underlying experiences, traumas, and stuff that kids have gone through in their respective lives. And when we meet each other, let's say we meet each other, let's pause, don't worry about it.
Okay.
Let's say we meet each other at 20 years old. We don't know, right, what somebody has gone through the prior 19 years of their life. And obviously there's habits and there's ways of perceiving and understanding the world and expectations that we have of other people, and it's totally different, two lives coming together and meshing together. So sometimes we need to try to have some empathy and understanding and try to put ourselves in the other's shoes when it is that our significant other opens up about maybe how they grew up or things that they went through, and try to understand, okay, if I had gone through that situation, how would I look at this situation, right? People might have fears, people might have insecurities, and those insecurities might stem from one of their parents not being there or one of their parents leaving, and so they may have this very shallow understanding of commitment moving forward, or who knows, right? There's a myriad of situations. So let me ask you this: if you were to advise me or advise somebody else, how should I deal?
Talking about me. Basically.
With y'all lazy peeps. No, I'm just kidding. How should how should I help you through those things?
Well, like you started with the small things, the dishes, this, that. Like it's a big burden to carry because you gotta do laundry for 5 people. You gotta wash after 5 people.
There's like some really good like TikToks and shorts and reels and stuff that talk about that, right? Like how, right? It'll be like a girl talking about how her husband helps her through like postpartum or whatever. And wait, didn't you send me a video? So
I
it's
did
like,
send you a video.
oh, was it? It was like him getting her like coffee in the morning or like just brightening her day or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it just starts like that because you gotta remember these people don't feel like they're worthy enough to feel like they deserve a place on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you get up when you feel that way every single day?
Yeah.
How do you wanna, you know what I mean? You don't feel like that, and then you have a whole family of 4 to show up for, and you can barely even show up for yourself.
Yeah, and I think doing that takes a lot of humility, love and humility, because I think, you know, speaking for myself, but I could probably speak for all guys generally, is I think our love language, and when I say love language, guys, I'm referring particularly to the phrase or the book written by Gary Chapman called The Five Love Languages. The Five Love Languages. And just to give you a little explainer, since we're talking about it or referencing it, he basically says that everybody has a different love language, and one of the languages is like acts of kindness. Another one is like gifts. Another one is words of affirmation. Another one, I think 4 is like touch. So like touching, feeling, hugging, kissing. That's another love language. And then what's the 5th one, babe? I don't even. Acts of kindness.
Acts of service.
Gifts, acts of service. Okay, acts of service. Yeah, maybe it was acts of service, not acts of kindness. But anyways, my love language, probably the biggest one, and you can have a combination of any of the 5 or whatever, or all of them, right? From the most significant to the least significant. So my least significant is words of affirmation. That's my least significant. Like, you don't ever have to tell me thank you. You don't ever have to tell me I love you. You don't ever have to tell me you look good. Like, that's lowest on the totem pole. Maybe once a year, it'll make me feel good and I'll appreciate it or whatever. But besides that, like, you don't ever have to tell me any of those things. I could care less. But the way that somebody could show me that they love me is acts of service, and I kind of like need those things, because that's what lets me know, like, hey, you know, are you appreciating my presence? Are you appreciating what I'm doing for them? So that's the way. That's mine. Now, if I'm going to be getting, right, in the context of this example that we're giving, if I'm going to be bringing you coffee in the morning and trying to brighten your day and maybe bringing you flowers, because that's one of your biggest ones, right, babe?
It is.
Or like words of affirmation, talking you kindly, tone.
Right.
All of those things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, well, I think like over the years, like it's changed because I was like a tough cookie and I really didn't care for those things in the beginning.
So what did you care for in the beginning? What was your love language in the beginning?
I don't even think
My hot bod.
Yeah. No. I don't even know. Like, I don't even remember. I feel like during that time and season, like it was very rocky that I didn't even have a love language at that point, because you were barely trying to understand me and I was barely trying to understand you. Like, I already went into the relationship knowing like I was gonna have this type of understanding, especially because of your background. So I wasn't there to like fulfill my needs and like active love.
So you weren't really thinking about yourself?
So I wasn't thinking about myself in the beginning. I was really trying to fulfill your needs and your love language.
What have grown to be your love languages?
Just the little things that you do, like.
Is it like acts of
service?
service?
Acts of service.
So acts of service is kind of both of ours, but in a different way. Well, you like touch a lot.
Well,
you always like words of affirmation.
Did I in the beginning? I did not like touch at all in the beginning.
I don't even remember. Maybe because I wasn't.
You don't remember our first
See,
hug?
we were the opposite.
We
You were
were-
focusing on me, and I was focusing on me. So I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't care if she
Exactly.
likes touch or not. I'm gonna touch her.
Yeah. He would touch me all the time, and I think it was so weird. Like he would like touch me right here, and I'd be like, "Stop touching me, you weirdo!"
But
Like,
you wouldn't verbalize that.
no, I would.
You would?
Yeah.
Oh, again, I
Not-
was only paying attention to my own thoughts.
Again.
The little voice inside my head was like, "Don't listen to her, bro."
She likes
doesn't mean
it. Dude, that is hilarious. No, but yeah, you would like, and if you like put your hands down, I would pull your hands. I wasn't like, but I would just, sometimes I would take it because I knew you like that and that made you feel like home, so I allowed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the beginning, I wasn't thinking about those things for myself. I was
Yeah.
thinking about how to please you.
Okay. And now, words of affirmation.
Now it has switched for me, and it is touch. Now I'm like, we gotta go to bed. I don't care if you're pissed off. You better touch my leg. You bring your leg over here, and we're going to bed, pissed or not.
And words of affirmation.
Our legs are touching, and words of affirmation.
Which love languages are good once you understand them and cultivate them to keep the relationship solid.
Right.
But again, so back to my example, if my love language is acts of service and I feel like you're not speaking to me in my love language or fulfilling my needs or meeting my expectations or whatever, meeting my expectations or standards, and your love language is, let's say, touch and words of affirmation, so you want me, the hellos, hey babe, how you doing this morning, communication, how are you, and all those things, and touch, right? Hugs, caresses, cuddles, and stuff like that. The way I am naturally is if my standards aren't being met and I start building up this frustration, then I'm not going to want to give you those acts of love because I don't want to touch anybody, right? I'm like frustrated, annoyed, or whatever, right? And then you're less inclined to give me my acts of service, so that can create this chasm, this gulf between you and me and our relationship, right? So in order to actually do that, right, because we're talking about in the context of you're going through postpartum depression, you're sad, you're not doing these things, how can I help you get out of it? Well, it's like, hey, speak to me in my love language even though I'm not speaking to you in yours, right? So again, that goes back to like, it can't always be 50-50, sometimes it's 120.
Right, there's gonna be months of
120, that's 120%.
Yeah, there's gonna be months of you giving 90 and me 10.
Right, and so that's where you have to be humble.
Right.
And you have to love, and even when your standards or the way that you perceive love isn't being reciprocated unto
Right.
you.
Yeah, just in the beginning how it was, I was catering to your love language and keeping the house up to par, dishes washed, food being made in the beginning, and then things switched over, and well, I had a kid, the chores got more, expectations became higher, and it was hard to meet them. And then you became prideful, and I stopped doing things, your acts of service, and you got frustrated, and then deemed me to be lazy.
Right.
And instead of having an understanding of like why.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is too is both of us coming from families that like my parents weren't together.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't even together when my mom was alive, but when she passed away when I was 5, obviously, right? No more so I really never, beside my grandparents, but my grandparents were like, they just always worked. They always worked. They'd come home, eat dinner, and they'd go to their bedroom. I don't know what they were doing in their bedroom, so they weren't really a great example. But point is, I didn't have a good example of how to work to do those things,
Right.
Because I didn't see them growing up, and neither did you.
Not a single great example.
So I didn't have any earthly example of how to get to those things. And again, guys, going back to my faith in God and you know, kind of following the tenets and the principles of the Bible, following the examples of the Bible, the reason I made my decisions on how to approach that situation was from God and from the Bible. And then that made sound dumb getting anything from a book, but I guess it's not, because a lot of people read self-help books to help them through situations. I feel like the Bible, for all intents and purposes, is the best self-help book out there. I mean, it's not just that, but you know,
Yeah,
and you too, like you were responding in love and empathy and understanding. I don't know if you were intentionally doing it because of God, or if you just did it because that's who you are, or maybe a mixture of. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like naturally I always grew up with this. Like I say, I'm God's favorite, so I feel like He has this love in me. Like He's always giving me this type of understanding and love and a perception to have understanding for people. So it was easy for me to do that for you.
Yeah.
It was easy, it wasn't hard. Like I didn't feel like I was doing work. It came natural. But when the roles switched, that's when it became hard for you
Yeah.
to do that for me. But then you got revelation. I felt like because of that, now you are where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And now I think our communication is amazing.
Yeah.
Like we fight? Never. And when we fight, like we don't stop talking. We can't even stop talking for like an hour.
Yeah. And so, like, moving on, you know, it says that I think the third top reason for divorce is finances, but I can't even really understand that. Like, I can understand how finances would be a reason unless finance is the incentive that's keeping you in the relationship.
Right.
So it's like, hey, look, my needs already aren't being met. This guy he's not getting me, he's not understanding me. The only reason I'm here is because he's making good money. I get to drive my decked out SUV and, you know, do my thing, get my nails done, this and that. And then when that incentive starts to disappear or diminish, then it's like, hey, this is an issue.
Yeah. See, and the difference with me is I grew up in a poor household. So for me, no matter how much money was on the table, I don't think any amount of money could have made me stay. And other women, it's different. They grow up with money. They grow up with this.
But I don't think really that's a factor, because that could work the opposite way. Like a girl could have grown up poor and have it in her mind, I'm never gonna live like this again. I'm gonna have money. I'm gonna meet a guy that has money, and this is a huge factor in her head and in her heart. So
well,
like you can really have the opposite approach.
She obsesses over it. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
It could be. There is. We've seen it.
But in your case, because you grew up with that and you're like familiar with it, you were like, hey, I've been down this road before. No big deal.
Right. And well, I don't think any amount of money. Someone can treat me amazing compared to someone who has money and is not even there, physically and emotionally. I choose being poor and someone being there physically and emotionally over that.
Yeah.
Over someone being absent and having money.
So that kind of speaks to what a woman or man prioritizes in the relationship as far as what they want. And there's a lot of relationships that are completely different than ours. Like we spend a lot of time together because we both work at home, and some of our business even kind of is together, right? Like your boutique, I help you go get inventory, so we make that travel transit in the morning and stuff. Like we spend a lot of time together, whereas there's other people on the opposite side of the spectrum who, let's say, you know, oil field workers is one example that I can think of. Doctors work a crazy insane amount of hours and stuff like that, where they spend hardly any time together. What are you looking at?
Nothing. I'm listening.
You need to be looking at me.
You see, he's obsessed with
I don't
me.
think there's understanding here.
I don't think comprehension, communication.
Yeah. And so some people might not even prioritize that, what you said. They might not prioritize all that time together.
Yeah, I know, and I think it's important that.
So the issues that are gonna arise in their type of relationship, is gonna be different. What are we gonna say?
I don't know, I forgot.
You think it's important or what?
I don't know. Well, that people spend time together like that. Like.
Because, oh.
Oh my dude. Just
Go,
go.
babe.
No, go. Go.
See, because we think it's important that they spend time together like
Right.
that, but because our foundation is different.
Our foundation is absolutely
Our
different.
foundation is an actual, like,
Source.
truly on
The
love.
Lord.
It's really on love, guys. It's really on love.
No, but we really are.
But, and there's, as
And the
odd as
thing
it
is-
sounds, there's people that have built their relationship built on different foundations. Like,
Yeah.
they might not really, it might not be love. It might be security. It might be provision. The fact that you provide for me, that's why we're together. Which is sad, in my opinion. But that's a question to ask yourself, guys. That's the only reason we're kind of submitting that notion and kind of brainstorming all the reasons why people might not be getting along is because these things that we're discussing, communication, understanding, not being too prideful, not having the ego, humbling ourselves, loving each other even when we're not getting the love that we want, or our standards or expectations aren't being met, we still do those things. But then there might still be issues in your relationship, and so the question to ask is, right, but our relationship that worked for us because what we were building our relationship on, the underlying foundation was still love and God and love, right?
Mm-hmm.
God and what he wants best for our lives and our relationship, and then love of him and love of one another and love of our kids and care for our family. That's our foundation. So we were able to build on that using these things, whereas somebody might try to implement these things in their relationship and that might not work. And if it doesn't, then that would be the question to ask. Are we even building on the same foundation? Because if I'm trying to love you and do these things for you and it's just like not getting through, your foundation might be completely different. It's like, dude, I don't even care about you loving me. I just want you to make more money. Dude, like, get out there again or something, you know, or something like that. So, but anyway, so moving on, guys, do you want to talk about intimacy?
Yeah, we can talk about intimacy.
Let's talk about that. Not for our sake, but that's probably, I think, a big issue, probably more so for guys than for girls in a relationship, is that romance and intimacy. Probably for the guys, maybe they feel like their expectations aren't being met and stuff like that. So let's just talk about some statistics as far as that goes. I think they say, what are the statistics that I read recently? Okay, so statistically, men are the more sexual partner in a relationship, and girls
Obviously.
less.
Yeah.
So I think
And I
it's
think
like,
as the burden of the house gets heavier and more tedious to control, then it's harder for a woman to be
as life's burdens increase.
right, to be intimate or want to be intimate.
Because you're stressed out, anxious, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think the common, what they say is all a guy needs is time and place.
That's it. That's it and that's all.
And a girl needs coffee, hair, flowers, nails, romance,
Yeah.
hugs, kisses, love, words of affirmation, caresses, everything.
All the above.
It needs to be pretty scent in the air, melodious notes of music flowing on the waves.
Candles,
Yeah.
kids asleep.
Golly. Guys, we're doomed.
You're doomed.
We're doomed, guys.
No. Trae, come on. You sometimes want to do it while the kids are bouncing around in the house. And I'm like, dude. Hello. Don't you hear this kid like, mommy, like, mommy, can you come pedal me? And you're over here like, you know, it's tough for a woman, especially as a woman who attends to their children all day, every day, for them to like know they're up and like at any given second they're gonna come ruin the moment. Like, no.
Okay, so let's just lay the facts down right there. What you're just stating is that obviously we're wired differently.
Very different.
We're wired very differently. And so that's how you view the situation. Your mind is like concerned with all of these things, and mine isn't necessarily.
You're just thinking with another part of your brain, and it ain't the brain.
Concerned with that thing. So let's just I guess put it out there, like if you could choose how often you'd want to be intimate, how often would that be?
Twice a week.
Twice a week?
Yeah.
Don't lie. For real?
If I had everything in place, yeah, for sure. But the stresses of the home, like, does not allow that to happen.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, absolutely not.
Okay.
I'm okay with twice a week, for sure. But house has to be clean. Kids gotta be in bed, washed, ready for school. Like, when women are laying down, they're not like just laying down just to like lay down. No, they're thinking about all the stresses. Yeah, they're on the phone.
And then like you don't like morning, you like evening.
Right. I like, yeah, during.
And I like morning.
He likes morning. Well,
supposedly
I mean,
that's a guy thing, because we wake up, that's when our testosterone is
right.
at the high, etc.
Right. Right. And then me, like, I got trauma issues. I got issues in general, so I like it dark. Like, yeah.
You got trauma issues?
Not trauma issues, just like insecurities.
You do? What, like body insecurities?
Yeah. Your girl's getting thick.
Okay, I don't see how that's bad yet. I don't have a problem, but you perceive yourself to be.
Girls do, yes. Guys don't see those things, but girls like see like things about their body. They don't mind not mentioning, but like they're like, turn off the lights.
Well, that's probably another thing that's different about a guy and a girl, is because I might have an insecurity about myself. Maybe I feel like I got a little belly or whatever. But if you tell me, oh, I don't care, I love it, shut it off, let's go.
Run it.
The only one whose opinion matters is you, and if you love it, well then baby, here it is.
You like this crease?
You do a little dance and everything.
Jelly belly dance.
That's
yeah,
right.
no, and the women are the opposite.
So so for me, the most
even
important
if you
opinion.
say like I like you that way, I'm still like, but I don't like you that way.
Okay, there's really nothing anybody can do about
yeah, but ourselves.
Which is what? Go to the gym and feel better about yourself?
Me personally. I mean, yeah, you could say it, but I'm still like, oh, in the back of my head. But that's what I'm saying, like trauma issues, because in the back of my head, I have like family members who are in the back of my head saying like, remember, oh, she's pretty.
Okay, so you have
That's
issues
what I mean.
there. So moving on, I think it's different. I think it's definitely different for guys and for girls in that area if expectations aren't being met, because as opposed to expectations being met like love languages, you're not doing acts of service for me, you're not meeting my standards there, and then me reciprocated with you and stuff like that. There's not it. The frustration is more emotional in that situation, and maybe psychological and emotional. It's like, oh, I'm frustrated or whatever. But if you can kind of work through that, then you can start to let it go. Whereas if for a guy, if your needs aren't being met in that area as far as intimacy, then the frustrations aren't just emotional and or psychological. They're also kind of biological. Like they're literally like you feel it in your body, and then the biology of the body starts translating to the mind. So in the sense that, you know, for me, once you start going like past like 3 days, man, this is being real. Guys, if you kids, hopefully you should already know by now. If your kids are in the car, I hope they're not. But and this is to help relationships out there, obviously. But so being transparent. But if the needs aren't being met, and you're like past 3 days, it's very easy. And well, basically, you start getting, I don't know what's the word for it.
Sexually frustrated.
I guess that's a good word for it. Sexually frustrated. I'm getting sexually frustrated. And obviously, the girl doesn't understand how that feels. So
Mm-mm.
talking about not knowing how postpartum depression feels and
Right.
stuff like that, you can't possibly understand how that feels for a guy. And I can imagine it's just greatly more exasperated for those men or individuals who are on Instagram,
Right.
who are battling with porn or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can only imagine that when they get frustrated, they're like, dude, I'm not getting from this girl. Forget this girl. Like, forget her. And so you pretty much start to build up bitterness and resentment towards her in
Right.
that area. And that even, that's a further, like, encouraging you into your sexual addiction or being on Instagram or whatever. So that's just going to take you down that road. And you cannot depend on your significant other to break that habit if you do have that habit,
Yep.
because they may or may not help you in that area. And if they don't, well, then you're just going to go deeper down that road. It has to come from within yourself, and you have to want to stop for a reason that has maybe nothing to do with your partner at all. You have to do it for a transcendent purpose. And again, my transcendent purpose is my relationship with God. So staying faithful to Him and doing the things that I think, that He approves of. And right, Bible says, be holy as He is holy, and be perfect as He is perfect, which nobody is perfect, right? But just the continuous pursuit of being the best person that I could be for myself and my family, and more primarily for God, then that's what motivates me to do those things. But yeah, I don't think a woman understands those biological things. And I think maybe if you did, or maybe if a girl did, then maybe she would, for sure, I'm guessing she would be more empathetic
Right.
to that things, and how she could like help with that.
Yeah, for sure. But also like vice versa, in the sense of postpartum or depression.
No, but we left that conversation though.
Oh, okay. Just gonna forget about that.
No, I don't forget about it.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, it's impossible to understand, right? Because
Right.
how can a woman biologically understand a guy, and how can a guy
But that's where
biologically
pride
understand
comes
a
in,
woman?
and like you have to understand that your husband, those are sexual needs that obviously biologically come naturally. So you have to have an understanding in your pride, like even though you might not want to do it, like act as if it's not a chore and still do the 90-10 method.
Oh, like give 90% even when you feel like he's only giving 10%.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
For sure.
And still give it to him if he wants it, even though you don't want to do it.
Yeah, because I think that area right there could definitely become the biggest reason why it was on the list at the top 5
Right, it is.
as being the biggest reason that people divorce. And I mean, again, just if it wasn't for my relation with God, I don't know what I would do, right? I don't know what I would have done with that issue, how I would have approached that issue, how I would have wanted to fix that issue. And based on looking just out there, friends, family, people that I see on Facebook, social media, and stuff like that, you see that I'm sure a lot of them deal with that issue just by moving on. If they don't feel like they're getting it from their wife, then
Yeah.
they get
The next one.
they get a next one.
But then again, they go to the next one, and the next one they find out there's different problems in a different area, and so it's not the grass is greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it, and have
Well,
understanding.
Well, it kind of depends on what guys want out of a person that they're just having sex with. So they also did a study. You can actually see this on the
I
Joe
gotta go to
Rogan
the
podcast.
restaurant.
Huh? Okay.
Pause. Dude, I finished that.
We can't pause. We gotta edit it out.
Okay, we'll edit it out. Take one.
Maybe I should too.
Maybe another year trying to freaking write a book.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, what I was saying was, so they did a study and they found out that they asked guys who were in a relationship who were not cheating, and they asked guys who were in a relationship who were cheating how happy they were, and there was basically no correlation to how happy somebody was in a relationship and them cheating. So
No, okay.
so basically, guys cheat for the purpose of just having another partner, like just doing the act, and then girls cheat because they actually want a new partner.
Right.
So when you're saying the grass isn't necessarily greener on the other side, guys don't care about that because they might not even necessarily want another partner. They're just like, dude, I don't want her.
I just want the sex.
Yes.
Well, even then, like, the sex might not be greener on the other side. That's my point.
Well, maybe it's more often, and that's all the person cares about. I mean, you're talking about if guys are picky and choosy when it says they're not, right? That's why they watch porn, because it's not like they're getting something that feels good. They're just using their hand.
Y'all got issues. Y'all got issues.
Yeah, and well, that issue fundamentally is biology.
Well, y'all got biological issues.
Yeah, but what if we said that to you during the postpartum?
We do. We got biological issues, and if I could take that away, shoot, I want to take that away 100%. Because I do not want to be going through postpartum. It's the worst. It's like drowning in a hole that you can never get out of.
Right.
It's horrible. I would never wish that on my worst enemy. And then it's something that you can't even understand, and you're like trying to get out and you're asking for help, and just.
Right. And so we just discussed at the beginning, how do we go about helping you through that situation? And we established, and I'm not asking that question again.
Right.
I'm saying, but we established that the answer to that was words of affirmation, loving you the way that you want to love, picking
The
up
love
some
language
more
of that individual person.
Right.
That is a way
Right.
to go about that.
You know, picking up tasks, helping them with the chores around the house so they don't feel overwhelmed by the burdens of being the mom or or you know, the stay-at-home mom of the household and stuff like that. So with that same approach of empathy and trying to understand and trying to help in the situation, what do you think is the approach for the guy in our situation? Same? Now, in practically speaking, how would that be? I gave some practical details on how to approach your situation. What are some practical details on how to approach the other situation?
Well, even though the house is not clean and things are not done, chores are not in the house, and that's your issue, for me, for example, and kids are not asleep, like, maybe throw in a little quickie to please your man for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Throughout the week. Do a little, things that are out of your comfort zone in order to please your partner in that area.
Yeah.
His biological needs.
Yeah.
Even though, like, as much as you don't want to, or as exhausted as you are,
for girls, like, what's your favorite surprise, babe? Like, do you like to be surprised with roses or flowers, or do you what's the best thing that'll like make you happy and surprise you?
I don't know, anything, like little things. Even when you come home with hot Cheetos, that like makes my day.
Really?
Yeah, or like a chocolate or whatever. My favorite Coke. Like,
yeah.
Those, I love it.
And you've often said in the past that, like, I'm not romantic, and to this day I don't know what you mean by that, because you're not giving me a practical example of what romance is. It's
like setting up a little dinner, taking me out
dinner where,
for the
house?
Night, bro. With the kids running around and the house looking the way it is.
Let's get practical, because again,
okay, then let's get into some in depth.
In depth.
In depth.
Okay, so you're saying a dinner at a restaurant.
Right. Where our focus and attention is on me and not on, I have work and we're on the phone and like, we'll watch a movie right now.
Okay.
Where 100% of the attention and conversation is right here in my eyes.
Okay.
And not anywhere else.
Okay.
And then if it were to be my words, you'd be Kim. You're gonna have to edit that out. Never mind. I'm not gonna say it. Feel guilty.
Okay. So those are examples of some romance. So on the other side, as it pertains to this situation and intimacy and sex, I think what would be the equivalent of that for a guy, and like the random flowers and the random hot Cheetos would be what you just said.
Right.
Random acts of that where
Of sexual intimacy.
where the guy isn't, or where I'm not instigating it, but you, like, you just randomly boom, right? That'd be a good, like, probably that's literally the guy's equivalent of a flower surprise. That's probably the equivalent of a flower surprise, and the preparation of the date and all that stuff is probably the equivalent of, like, I don't know, a nice little, I don't know.
But how many times it's a lot easier for a girl to do that for a guy than a guy to do that for a girl? Like, he has to really think about those things.
You're right. So it should be easier for you to do that for me than me do that for you, right? Is that what we're establishing now?
Yeah, but how many times a year do you do that, and how many times a year would I be doing that? Like, you get me?
I bring you hot Cheetos all the time. Guys, is that not what she just said? Is that not what she said?
I am dead. No, okay, well, the
I
romance.
think about you all the time.
You do think about me all the time. You buy me coffee every single morning. You're literally an angel. Like, you're an angel.
Okay, so then?
So, dude,
You definitely don't do that for me as often as I do it for
bring
you.
Flowers.
Huh? Not my definition of flowers.
Okay, you'll get your flowers. But once a year, not even once a year. When was the last time we went on a romantic date?
A romantic date like that? I really can't even remember.
When Krista and Joey were here?
Yeah. I really can't even remember, but I don't
And that
know.
for you.
Is that high on your priority list? Like, considering the fact that we spend a whole lot of time together. Like, I could see how.
But the thing is, like.
Hold on, so let me explain myself for the audience. In the concept of the relationships, they work all day. They don't have a lot of time together. It's understandable that they would place that higher in the priority list because you want some one-on time.
Okay, all right, perfect.
So with that, considering that,
are you present?
yes, dude.
Emotionally.
We're practically touching eyeballs.
No, you are not present emotionally whenever we are together. Absolutely not.
No.
No.
So, what's a practical example of how emotionally present looks like? Just one example. There could be 5,
You're
10.
already laughing, bro. You're already like, like you're
It's
there.
so funny to me. Like, would emotionally
No.
present be like caressing your arm while you're talking to it?
You see how awkward you make it seem? Like, you're like, it's so funny to me because it's out of your comfort zone.
No, it's not.
Bro, it's out
I'll
of
rub your arm and I'll feel completely comfortable about it. Like, what do you
I'll like your back.
Yeah, bro, what do you want? Sniff your hair while you're talking to me?
Oh my god, you're annoying.
So, okay, what's an example, honestly, seriously?
I forgot where we were going.
Being emotionally present.
Oh yeah, being emotional. Like when we're having a conversation, like actually be there, and instead of like,
Oh, okay.
I'm
busy,
working, babe. I'm busy right now.
Okay.
Like I'm like, all right, bet.
Mhm.
So by the end of the day, after all, you've been busy and stuff, and you're like, hey babe, it's that time of night.
What's up, sweet thing?
Yeah, and I'm like, really? I've been trying to talk to you all day, have a conversation with you all day about whatever it is that I feel like is important to me, even though it's not important to you. You want to freaking just wing it and thank it. Like, you can't do that.
Okay, so you're keeping a tally on me.
No.
What happened to the 9 and 10?
No. Nobody's keeping a tally.
Okay, nah,
But it's by the end of the night, whenever you're like, hey, man.
Okay.
That's what I mean. You're asking for not trying to keep a tally because I don't.
Okay. So, I mean, just to summarize it all, what you're saying, obviously, we established we're not biologically the same.
Right.
there's some things that could help you, guys, if you're listening. There's some things that could help your girl, your woman get in the mood or be more in the mood, right? But at the same time, the women have to have this understanding that sometimes it's completely impossible to meet all those expectations or to
It
check
is.
all of those boxes. And so in that scenario, there has to be some understanding and empathy. See, empathy on the side of the woman to kind of help do that for her husband, even if he's not, checking all the boxes and meeting all those expectations. And guys, if you're going through that situation and you're just really frustrated, well, then I would encourage you to try to implement all the things that we're discussing. First of all, don't start with the tally. Don't start off with, if she doesn't do this, then I'm gonna do that. That's the worst place to start off. Don't have that as your starting point.
No, yeah, that's one thing that like I feel like absolute pride has to come down.
Yeah.
And if you have to say sorry, even though she's 100% wrong, say sorry.
Yeah.
Make the initiative. Like if nobody makes the initiative to take the first step, like how is she ever anybody on any side, men or women, like gonna feel comfortable enough to let their walls down and be like, okay, you know what, it's not us against each other, it's us against the problem.
Right. And so your starting point shouldn't be that. It should just be, I'm gonna be the best be that I can be for who? Not for my wife, not if she acts a certain way, for God and for me. You could say for yourself, but you're gonna let yourself down if it's not for God, honestly, because when you feel frustrated, yourself, your own mind is just gonna convince you to act this other way, however it is that you want to act. So it really can't be for yourself. You have to find some transcendent reason, and sometimes even if it's for your kids, that's not enough. And we've seen that play out in our society, that kids aren't enough of an incentive to keep moms and dads together. So in my opinion, it has to be for God. But as that is the starting point, guys, try to implement those things: communication, understanding, empathy, love, kindness. Give 100% when you feel like your significant other is giving 0%, and just keep doing that for the Lord or whatever. And then in the case of intimacy and sex, guys, if your needs aren't being met there, I think you really pretty much got to come to the ultimatum in your head. Like, I'm going to stay faithful to God and I'm going to stay faithful within this relationship, even if my sexual needs are never met the way that I want them to be met. And it goes, it's not just for sex, it's in the context of the whole relationship. I think the wife has to feel kind of that way for her husband, and the husband has to feel that way for her wife. You kind of, and guys,
whether
like
it's financial, whether it's,
I think generally, I think a lot of couples, what's the word for it? They give too much power towards like suffering and discomfort within a relationship. So it's like, I'm suffering, he's not doing this, he's not doing that. That's the reason they let that be the powerful enough reason to leave the relationship. And I think it's different for people Christians, right? I'm speaking from our perspective. It's different because we have a different view of suffering. We have a different view of struggle and stuff like that, and I think we approach suffering and it's an opportunity to learn, and it's an opportunity to build our characters up, and it's an opportunity to show our commitment to one another when people know that we're suffering. And a lot of times the ones that don't know, and they'll witness it, and maybe they won't be able to consciously understand it, but subconsciously, are your kids,
right,
guys. And so you're setting an example for them that when they're in a relationship and they look back and they remember mom and dad and the conversations that they overheard with mom and dad, and maybe it comes to the point where they ask mom or dad or advice now that they're grown up and in their own relationship, and you can, now that they're adults, open up to them and be transparent to the struggles you went to, and they understand, wow, man, you went through the same thing I went to, but you stayed committed. But that's how you still treated mom, like you were still loving her through all that whole situation, postpartum depression, all that, and vice versa, man. You were still this way with dad, even though he was a big old jerk in the beginning and didn't understand romance and got you flowers once every 3 years.
How?
Never took you on a date.
Right.
Never, like, that's still the way. when they understand that, guys, it kind of reaffirms and solidifies and builds them a framework of understanding about these words that we so freely use and they've lost their meaning in society.
Right.
Words like commitment, words like love, words like marriage, like covenant, like forever, till death do you part, sickness and in health, good and the bad, whatever, right? Those are words that like they flow so like eloquently off of our lips and they sound good in poems and stuff, but who's actually acting those things out in a relationship and showing them to their kids for the future? And so yeah, guys, just to make the decision in your head, like, hey, I hope you've made the relationship. If you're in a marriage or if you're in a relationship with God, I hope you made the relationship with him. Hey, I'm going to be here with you, God, to the end. I'm going to walk this thing out to you. I'm going to believe in you. I'm going to have faith in you. No matter what happens, I'm going to be here to the end. Because you were there with me to the end, all the way to the cross. And if you've made married, right, you're married, and you've made that covenant and commitment to your wife, then hopefully you're going to have that same perspective towards your marriage. Then no matter what happens, sex, this, that, and the other, this, that, and the third, as they say, I'm going to be here no matter what. Right, babe? Do you concur?
I concur.
Any last words that you'd like to say?
No, you might cut me off.
No, I won't. I promise.
No, I'm just kidding. No?
Am I in trouble?
A little bit. No, I'm just
I'll just
kidding.
get her another coffee, guys. That'll
Yeah,
be fine.
hot Cheetos and a pickle and a cherry Coke.
All right, guys. So until next time, follow us on YouTube. And I just got a Facebook page by the same name, Theoretically Speaking Podcast. Like and subscribe, guys. Share with your friends. Hopefully, this has been an informing and helpful conversation for you guys out there, and girls, women, ladies.
Yeah.
God bless. Take care. Bye.